Okay, hello Didem, we are on camera. I think I will just hand it over to you to speak a little bit about yourself. I don't need to do that. Even though we already know each other, but let's pretend we don't know each other.
Okay, so you want to hear the basics, I guess?
What you want people to know about you?
What I want people to know about me? I don't really know. I've never actually thought about the question because there's always a standardized question about what you have studied, what you have done, what do you work about, and so on.
Do you struggle? Do you struggle to answer when people tell you, tell us who you are or what you do, or
Normally, I don't struggle, but I feel like if you want to tell, if I should define it myself, I would be like, I want people to know that I'm a compassionate being, very curious about science, quite nerdy. But at the same time, I don't think that I'm so stuck up. So I think I'm actually also funny. Okay. So that would be something I want people to feel, I guess, that I'm funny. You can't tell them that you're funny. Yeah, compassionate, funny, nerdy. I love science.
Okay. I mean, that's fair enough. So my first question is about this cup.
Yeah, the big boss.
Does this trigger you when you see it?
Yeah, it does. It makes me smile and laugh. I think it's super funny because who thinks of themselves of being the big boss? Mm-hmm. You have to have some, ego. Quite an ego to go in with a cup that says big boss.
Okay.
So maybe there's not just a humor, but also a fascination of what kind of person does go and buy this. And then at the same time, are you a little bit making fun of yourself also by this cup? Or are we taking this cup super seriously?
Okay. Can I answer?
Yeah.
All right, sure. So when it comes to this terminology, like the boss, it's, I think a lot of people would think about it about somebody who thinks that they are superior or something, but mostly what rings in my mind is more like taking responsibility, taking ownership in your decisions and in your projects. It's some sort of being driven to a certain goal, and it has nothing to do with how you treat other people, how you look at other people. Now, this is what gets me to the left, how the leftists think, because they always think through the lens of oppressed versus oppressors. So when they see something like that, they always think that, okay, this person probably sounds like the oppressor, the other sides who are very arrogant and they will treat people very badly. Am I wrong?
I don't know, I mean, this is a question of culture, right? What do we see in media and so on? How do people behave that are typically called boss, right? It is not something the left invented, okay, but there's a stereotypical idea of what we think a boss does, and this might be right and this might be wrong. So, but there's a stereotype. So if you call yourself boss, then there's a stereotype of what people think. So you can either be playing with it because you know the stereotype, right? As I said, so use it a little bit ironically.
You know, stereotypes do change all the time socially based on people. Stereotypes are really created by people.
Yes,
and so you can change them.
It is also an arrogance to think that you can change the stereotype.
Why?
Which I say I have a fascination for this self-esteem.
To think that you can change a stereotype. People change stereotypes all the time. You might have a stereotype about your religion, about how people in your religion look like or think or whatever, about your nationality, about your race, about your gender. There are stereotypes about everything. And
but
so...
Okay, let's say not arrogance, but there has to be some really believe in yourself, that you believe you can change what people say. No, I'm not saying, I just said I'm fascinated with it. And I also think there's some arrogance. Obviously, I'm sitting here. I already saw the cup, big boss. I came anyway, okay. Right? But if I was I'm fascinated because I would never call myself like that, right? I already have a problem with having fans. I know I have haters. That's something I'm used to. But having people that are fans, for me, this is really weird. This feels really weird. So being somebody called me their spirit animal. Which I felt so honored. Or if I give a talk, there's people clapping, right? When people clap, I'm the one hiding behind my hands because I'm really not used to people clapping. When people laugh, I'm all happy. So this is also maybe for me a fascination with people being very self-assured about this. If I was you, carrying those things that you said. That would be
Depends on your intention,
okay.
though.
But you told me about what you think this means
yeah.
and what you want it to mean.
Yeah.
I would kind of think of yourself more of a leader than a boss. So,
I mean, it's just a matter of terminology. People keep saying that, okay, leader is such a positive word, well, boss is such a negative word. Boss is like an egoistic manager who thinks highly of themselves and just treat other people in a very bad way. But that's just in their minds.
but
You see, like,
words mean something, right?
even leader could also be a bad leader.
Even if you call this like, you can call this yellow, but it's still green.
Yeah, because I can see it green.
Yeah, but
you can see this,
But
you can
those
see it like
words the same. We agreed
No,
on
it's
the
not the
term. we agreed that we
did
call
not
this
agree.
color green.
No, but we did not
Green.
agree. A boss is like, it's different for, but anyway.
Meaning is negotiated.
We're going to have a lot of debates to have here. But let me start about, first of all, when I wanted to do this podcast, I wanted to be very chill. So we're just going to talk about different stuff, especially because that's something you did not mention, that you're a leftist. This is what you
I'm
call
a
yourself.
leftist.
And you're a proud leftist.
I am a proud radical leftist, even.
A radical leftist.
Yes?
Okay, cool. So I'm going to have this conversation with you. We're going to bring up a couple of subjects, and I will talk about how I think about them. I do not claim that I have the full truth or I understand everything, but I am interested in talking with the other side. And when I say the other side, does not mean I'm in the extreme right or anything. I try to be balanced because what's important here is the truth. And don't tell me that the truth is relative, because this is also a leftist idea.
No. This is an idea from philosophy. Truth, a philosophy concept.
But usually it's the leftist.
Reality, that's the one with science. When we talk physics, physicists don't talk about truth, right? They talk about reality. So that's the difference. I'm not saying like we shouldn't say truth, but in order to make it easy, when we talk about the physical reality, I prefer the term reality to truth.
Okay. So okay. It's a matter of terminology. So when I came here first to Germany, I was in Darmstadt. I think I already told you about. One of the things that really fascinated me in a way, and or surprised me would be a better word, is when I saw, for example, the pride flags everywhere. And I didn't understand that, because I even like in the my flatmates, they all had this like the rainbow flag on their doors, and also at the door of the apartment I saw people like in their cars also holding the pride flags. And it was not in June. And then I didn't understand like what's going on. And then they said that it's more like supporting a group of people who are oppressed and not welcomed and stuff like that. But then what it seemed to me, especially when I was in a class and then the teacher told us like, okay, being straight is boring. And then a lot of other events that happened after that, I felt like it's more like a promotion of a certain lifestyle over another lifestyle.
But isn't it a joke? Being straight is boring. It's kind of a joke, huh?
It was not a joke. I mean, even if it's a joke, if it's the same thing was said, we say like, okay, homosexuality is boring, it would sound very bad.
I think there's an argument to be made that either is boring and like queerness would be more fun. I mean, as I'm just saying there's an argument to be made intellectually.
I'm not going to get into that. But what I'm trying to say here is that I think that there is some sort of a trend where we try to promote the group that was historically, let's say, oppressed, and we try to weaken the other group that was the oppressors, and just based on a group identity and not individualists. And so, for example, it's something that I also mentioned to you before, and I would like to know your opinion about it. When, for instance, you look at the women and you tell them, like, be a leader, be confident, be strong, take your own decisions, don't listen to others, whatever. And then you go to the men and you tell them the complete opposite, message. You tell them, cry more, be vulnerable, show your vulnerability, and this is also very bad. Like, we don't want masculine men. We don't want men who like to be strong. We don't want to be driven. We want them like just to cry and show their vulnerability.
Is it about your masculinity?
I mean, being driven is associated with masculinity. Being aggression, wanting power.
So now we are giving words, kind of like some other words to go with, an early one.
Because the term boss would be associated with a lot of like different other words. But again, So, isn't this a trend about weakening a certain group and supporting another group?
I find it very difficult when we talk about equality or justice to talk about weakening one group over another, right? We have a group that historically rules over another group. We can see the same as like colonialists, right? And the colonially oppressed. And then I might be talking now your language, right? Because you're from Algeria. So we are talking about a country that has been oppressed by colonial masters, colonial powers, however you want to call the French, right? So when we talk about liberation, and that would be Frantz Fanon and so on, we have to really think about how are we going to get freedom for all? How are we going to get equality? And if the French are losing some parts of their territory for that, I think this is fair, right? We are now talking physical territory. What you were talking is some kind of a socially, emotional, cultural territory. Yeah. But we can make it very clear by just thinking of land. Okay, we are thinking of in order for Algeria to be liberated, they needed to get some land, right? They needed to so the land was taken away from the French, right? So France was weakened. France was weakened in order for Algerians to be free. You say this is different. You say this is different. But for me, this is very similar. When we are talking spaces, right? When we're talking about I get told all the time that I shouldn't be so loud and I should give voices to people that don't want to talk, or at least for me, they appear that they don't want to talk, right? But there's a point to be made into giving up spaces, and it doesn't matter if it's physical spaces or if it's spaces in leadership and so on, to help those that have been historically oppressed, right? Those that have been weaker, and lots of times they're weaker because the other people make them weak, right? Algeria was not weak itself, it was weak because it was under colonial rule, because the French would take all the richness and bring it to France, bring it to Paris, and not leave it there. And I think for me, this is very similar to those other things we think about. Women, right? Women have been historically on the side where they didn't have any spaces, where they might not be allowed to vote, right? In Switzerland, until 1971, women were not allowed to even vote. So, yes, sometimes in the struggle, there can be places where somebody may be overstepping and it looks ridiculous. Okay, agreed. But this happens all the time. This can happen in all about revolution and change. It's about it's fire, right? People get very emotional with it.
But don't you think this trend is also problematic? Because then we are not really seeking justice or fairness. We are just reversing sides.
Are we talking about a trend? This is also a right-wing talking point. I don't really like to call something a trend when we don't want to take it serious. Right? When we don't want to take something serious, we're oh, it's a trend, it's a fashion, it's a fab, to not take
What do you want me to call it?
Not take something serious, a development.
Because we're talking about do you think wokeism is a development?
Yeah. I think it's a development, and it's also a reoccurring development, because when we think of wokeness, okay, this is taken away. Before that, this was social justice warrior. We always take something, and the right wing is taking, and unfortunately, boomer leftist men write whole books about this, why wokeness is bad, by the way. So on both sides, there's those people making fun of this. But when we look at historically what woke meant, then it was to stand in for social justice, support black liberation movements, right? It was about civil rights. In the 60s, it was about Martin Luther King. Black people in the US, particularly, said that they're woke,
but it's not
meaning,
that anymore. But it's not like that.
Meaning, well, I think it is. I think the media and so on turns it in a way that is ridiculous, because we have so much clickbait. Nobody is interested.
In the media, we're meeting those people. We see them in universities, in outside.
You see them because this is the thing. Humans work with everything that we see all the time. We don't realize. We don't even notice. Something we see all the time, we will not notice. Our brains work in a way where we see something that we normally don't see, that gets our attention. The tiger, right? We have Stone Age brains. So we are more likely to realize there's somebody with pink hair than we are seeing somebody with normal blonde hair. Okay, and I'm saying normal in a like natural, right? Naturally grown blonde hair. So who says that it has gotten more? I don't even like, so I'm already getting at the premise, at the precondition, I'm already doubting that it got more or less. I'm saying it gets pushed on clickbait, right? And also for us, our lives also work like clickbait.
Okay,
we will notice what is different. We will not notice what is normal to us.
Are you saying that there are ridiculous people representing wokeness and feminism and social justice in the media, and they are affecting people?
There's ridiculous people from all kinds.
No, answer me this one. I don't want a general answer.
There's ridiculous queer people, there's ridiculous straight people, there's ridiculous conservatives, there's ridiculous left-wing people. In my opinion, yeah, like it looks fun, but on the other hand, who am I to judge somebody as ridiculous? Who am I to judge? I don't feel it, right? I'm straight. I don't really feel it. So who am I to judge if something is ridiculous? If I don't understand it, if you don't understand it, sometimes you think it's ridiculous.
I'm going to give you another example because we've been like we didn't get to the point, but you've been like, revolving around the point. So suppose, for example, when I look at people and they say white people are like that, so this is form of generalization, and we know that to generalize is a very stupid act because we are somehow underestimating the human complexity. When people do that for black people, they say black people are like that, we say this is racist. But when people say like white people are like that, like it's considered normal. Don't you think this is racist?
We are talking about like so I don't really like the idea that there cannot be racism against white people, right? It's not on me to judge that this is how I see it, because I am not in this position, right? So I can't really understand how it feels to be in black skin, to go everywhere and to be always seen as something else. So I think this is like an extra thing, like something that we don't experience, very similar with I don't experience how it is to be a trans person, to not being taken seriously. I have a friend with a headscarf, and she experiences all the time that she's not taken seriously. People talk, she's born in Germany, her mother tongue is German. People talk broken German to her, right? But this
they assume that she's an
yeah,
immigrant.
but so when I said like ridiculous, it is like, it feels ridiculous to me, but when I like think about it, it's also not fair because I don't know other people's experience. So I'm come from a place, I'm trying to be like very compassionate about it and try to understand where they're coming from. Why are they like this? And at the end, I do think straightness can be somehow boring. It's very interesting to me if I see something new. You might think like, oh, they got more and so on.
Not everything new is interesting.
No, not always. Not everything new is interesting. But first you're like, oh, there's something new. And you might look at it. So I find the world with like whatever we want to call ridiculous or not, I found the world much more interesting than if we were all uniform. And when it comes to the question, has it gotten more? I don't think so, but I can't judge it. It's in social issues, it's very hard to like evaluate what has gotten more and not. Obviously, and this is a good step, people have more self-esteem to be like they want to be. Okay. So maybe 30 years ago, and we know that being trans is not a choice. If it was a choice, probably nobody would choose it because you get discriminated a lot. So we know that now maybe there's more people that openly are trans men, trans women. No, we are talking about woke.
But you have not answered my question. The question was like whether when people generalize over white people, they say white people are like that. Isn't that also as racist as when people talk about black people and generalizing them with certain
It is stereotyping them. As I said, like I don't feel it's on me to like say what is racist and what is not racist in this context because we're both white, right? We're two white people. I don't have the lived experience, but I have.
What do you mean that it's not on you to judge what is racist and what is not? So you don't use the term racist at all?
Oh, I do, but for the cases that are clear to me.
And then why is this not clear for you?
Because I don't live the experience. You know, I have myself, because I'm Didem, right? So I get discriminated myself. And a lot of times I talk to like Germans with German names, and they don't take me serious. Like I say, I have this problem and so on, and I see myself how I'm not taken serious by the majority population saying, look at this is racism, right? And they're like, oh no, this is your character or your personality and so on. But I know it's not, because when I'm somewhere else, this is not happening, right? So this is why I have difficulty, and I don't think it's on me to judge, because I'm living in this white person suit my whole life. So I don't know how it feels. I don't know, I cannot categorize it like this.
I think it should be crystal clear for anyone that it's a complete evil for us, for example, to associate also evil with something that people didn't really choose. For example, they didn't choose to be Algerian. Germans didn't choose to be Germans. Nobody chose where they were born or the skin they have or something like that. So the same way I understand that when people push this argument when it comes to black people, I also understand that when people talk about white people like that. So, like there are certain people, they're just born in a certain country that is white. Like why would you associate historical guilt with them? Like and you kind of shame them and weaken them from even like talking or expressing their opinion. And don't you think that this is somehow like build up certain rage and anger? Don't you think this is also what is strengthening also the extreme right?
I think the problem is like when we talk about shame, and we're in Germany, we also talk about guilt, right? Historic guilt and so on. I think it's a cultural thing where people don't feel enabled and don't feel what they can do with it. If somebody feels shamed, well, shame is a very strong feeling, right? You have different options, right? You can change what you feel ashamed for. And let's make it like very simple. We are in class together, you don't do your readings. I'm openly saying, Wahid, what did you do? Right? And you feel a little bit of shame, maybe in front of everybody else, maybe just before yourself, that you want to be the one that really does their reading, that participate and so on. So there's two options what you can do with shame, right? You can either improve and next time do your readings, or you can be very much like, oh, the readings suck, the teacher is stupid, I don't want to go anyway. And maybe there's even options to like not change anything, right? And not care and so on. So there's different options how to go on with shame and guilt. And I think we don't, with all those terms and also with wokeness, we don't differentiate close enough. We're not really talking about what do we mean when we say wokeness. Yeah, we make up these little categories just like boss, right? We make the categories and we don't openly communicate what we like about the category and what we don't like about the category. So a lot of times when we talk about shame, we talk about it as something that like freezes you, right? That doesn't give you the chance to enable you. And I agree. I don't like when people get shamed to the point where they feel like they can't do anything, and also where they feel they have no dignity, right? So it's about human dignity. You should always make sure that everybody can keep their dignity when you have a discussion. So there's a point where I think it's good to talk about, like, you should be ashamed of this or that. But obviously, and this is the same with pride. I'm not proud of things I haven't had anything to do with, right? Like the German football team winning. I'm not proud of it, but equally...
It's the same pride with also like all sexualities. Like, why would you be proud of being like queer, for example, is like queer, it's a questioning. Like, why would you be proud of being a queer?
Well, this is about
at peace with maybe what you have.
Yes, but this is about political. So this is about political recognition, right? For a long time, people were put in the closet to be ashamed. So this is a counter-reaction to catch up, right? Okay. To catch up. This is a counter-reaction to that. For a long time, people had really a big shame, and also still now, many children still feel ashamed if they don't conform to societal rules, right? So this whole thing that we call pride is about.
Why does it jump from one opposite to the other? Why is it from one extreme to another? Like, is there like complete oppression that you can't really explore what you have and talk about it or whatever, and then the other side is like being proud about it and just like, you know, showing it in the face of people every single day. Why is it like it's so hard to go to the
people, like straightness is shown in our faces all the time?
I mean, I don't go outside and tell them, hey, I'm straight.
But
or I don't have a sign for straight.
You don't need to.
Why am I supposed to look? So, I mean, how does straight look like?
Like that. So you don't need to. And also, you have not been historically oppressed. Like, look, I
Not
think
everybody has been historically oppressed.
I think it's very hard for like us as relatively privileged people to judge how it is in a situation where but like to evaluate, okay? Like, let's not use the word judge. To evaluate, how does it feel? How is it? How come? And I don't think it's an overreaction, okay? Like, let's be clear. We are not at the point where we are like, okay, this is the best and everybody needs to be like that. We are not in the extreme. We are somewhere at the middle level from people being ashamed, because we still have lots of people being ashamed. We have lots of African countries where you get hung if you're openly homosexual. So we are not there. We are not there at all, where we are in a society where we accept everybody as they are. Maybe we too do. And I think this is a big problem. Like, when people that are conservatives, and there's relatively open-minded conservatives, a lot of times they apply their ideology and think all conservatives are like this. I have those people in my family.
I do know that there are. I do know that there are certain conservatives, whether Muslims or Christians or whatever, who would really hate homosexuals to the extent that they would hurt them. Maybe. For me, I would think that. As a religious person, I would think that it's a sin. But again, we live in a free world, so you get to do whatever you want and think whoever you are. And I don't have to interrupt in your life. But also, do not wait for me to cheer with you or clap for you. You should also respect my freedom the same way I respect your freedom. Don't you agree?
But this is like, so I don't think your freedom gets disrespected by somebody like dancing.
No, it's fine. But don't ask me to do that with you.
Well, I don't know if it's your friend. It depends. Like, is somebody asking you that?
I'm talking about all those football clubs, for example, that make the players wear this bandana with the rainbow colors or stuff like that. There are certain religious persons who didn't want to wear that. It does not necessarily mean that they are hurting the homosexuals, but they just don't want to wear that.
But why would somebody not want to wear it? If it's just about equality, right? Let's say it's not pushing, it's not making them take hormones or anything. It's just a symbol of of love. For me, it's a symbol of love.
But what if?
So why would you say no to a symbol of love?
That's for you. But for other people who are religious people, they might think this is a sin. Why are we supposed to force them, for example, to adhere to something that they think it's a sin? How can we live together with such policies where either each group is supposed to force the other to do something that they want to do?
I was thinking about labor actually a lot this couple of days, and I think there's actually a lot of things in society that force us to do something that is against some religions. Okay, and this starts with people at the supermarket having to sell pork, right? We can also look at Christianity. In Christianity, a rich person is as likely to go to heaven as a camel through a needle, right? So even when we look at Christianity, most of our life is not set up as to adhere to Christianity. And we are in a majority Christian country now in Germany or whatever, right? But when we look at it, actually lots of things we agreed on, human rights, the human rights we agreed on might in many cases not really 100% be in line with what these old textbooks say.
Okay.
But we still agreed upon certain rights for everybody, right? So there can be religions in conflict with human rights. So
is it not a human right for me to not wanting to wear a certain shirt? Why do you force me to wear a shirt?
See, I would say in that, and this is a lot of time on all sides, we are not being honest that there's conflicts and trade-offs. Like when we talk about freedoms, there's different freedoms that's in creatures than each other, right? There cannot be absolute of this freedom and absolute of this freedom. For instance, if we want free public schools, if we want firefighters and so on, which is positive freedom, right? Something that helps us, enables us. Or if we want no taxes, not to have to pay taxes is negative freedom. Okay. We cannot have absolutes on both sides, right? No taxes at all, and still good public schools are not working. Somebody has to pay the taxes for the public schools. So I think in a lot of times in media, those things are presented as if they're not values we have to negotiate and we have to talk about. Like, what are your needs? And this would be something leftists say, right? What do you need? Like, what do you need to live a good life? And I think we are not asking this question often enough. And we are pretending that there's no conflicts.
Okay. You see, it's a long topic. I want to go to certain pictures that we have about like certain subjects. It does not mean that you win over me. But I would like to get your reaction about this first picture. It has been on social media for some time. People have been sharing it everywhere. And this is a meme that is usually supposed to promote equity, the idea of equity. What do you think? Would you agree?
So the whole point is that a lot of times in liberals, so neither conservatives or leftists, push the idea that if everybody gets something, this is fairness, right? We are not, this says equality and equity, we are not talking about fairness. Mm-hmm. Because fairness is obviously something that is very subjective. Okay. So this picture is explaining us that there's different ways to see the world, right? This is pretty much like trying to explain those people that are not really talking about that everybody should have the same chance. Okay, a lot of times we're talking about, oh, you all have the same chances. Right? And the left picture shows us that even if we have all the same education, we don't have the same chances. Okay. Right? Some people might like come up with a learning disease and might like learning impairment, whatever, might need some more support. Okay. So on the equity side, we would say that we are looking for this outcome, okay? The right side is outcome oriented. Yeah. The left side is input. Outcome, this input oriented, right? We have two different forms of justice. Okay. The right side is kind of redistributive, right? Mm-hmm. And the left side is distributed. This is how Aristotle would frame it. So I think it's actually a good picture. Very simple for people to understand that there are different concepts of justice. And the different concepts of justice, when we apply them, they have different outcomes.
Now I'm going to show you the second picture, which is about the same concept, but differently. Equity in theory, as they say, but equity in reality.
Okay, so we are having like this extreme right-wing memes.
Why is it extreme?
Well, there's social justice has this, social justice has this chainsaw, so this is a little bit ridiculous.
But you know what is the idea here? Is that in theory, it's caring about the poor and the sick and try to promote them. Very, very nice slogans like that everyone would agree with them. But in reality, what they do is that they go for the intelligent ones, the rich, the hardworking people, and then start like weakening them in order to make them the same.
Studies show that the richer you are, the less you care about people. For me, this is not reality. Okay, this is right-wing propaganda, and really evil at it, and a form where I'm kind of disgusted on the way it's presented, because this is a stereotype of oh, this is being done. But when we really look at who is celebrated, Elon Musk, right? Oh, we're taking Elon Musk down. Elon Musk is the son of a diamond mine. How did they get the diamond mine? How did white people in South Africa get the diamond mine? Right? We don't have to talk about it. We know why a white man in South Africa would have a diamond mine and how they got it. So when we criticize the supposed hardworking people that get taxed higher,
But you know that not all rich people are like
Most
that. They're born.
there's good studies that show like that the 5 richest families in Germany, they all got most of them got it from Nazi time and so on. So most rich people are like this. There's exceptions, and this is a fakery of like right-wing thought, or especially actually not right-wing thought, because as I said, lots of Christians are actually also in the middle, right? This is what they want in equity, because as I said, a camel cannot go to a camel is more likely to go to heaven through a needle than a rich person to heaven. So the left side.
Why would you say that?
This is in the Bible. This is Bible.
Okay,
this is why I'm saying this is part of the Bible. So part of Christian belief is that rich people can't go to heaven. Okay? So this is why the Pope, when you look at the Pope, he's comparatively left-wing because he's quoting from the Bible. And there's lots of things. Jesus is not taking all the wine for himself, right? They are sharing stuff. So when we look at the right side, so this is how reality is presented in right-wing media, and actually I would also say in mainstream media. We're always presenting as the hard-working man is losing something. But when we look at who is really paying taxes, rich people are not paying a lot of taxes. The middle class is mostly paying the taxes, so the one in the middle. So it's even wrong because actually the one in the middle would have been the one that gets cut the most,
but you know,
and the one in the left, he gets extra boxes. The left one gets extra boxes because once you're rich, you get all these entitlements and all this stuff more. You get access to politicians. If you have money, you go to dinner parties with politicians. The politicians are more likely to do what you want, and so on. So this is actually not how the world works at all. This is how.
It depends on which situations you think about when you look at this.
No, all situations. Which situations? Okay, give me a good real life example where this happened.
I'm gonna give you with examples that I lived, not just in theory. Like for instance, you would make sure. I mean, I come from Algeria, and I don't come from like the capital. I come from a very isolated place, and I made all my way up through a lot of hard work and trying to make good decisions in life. And then at the end of the day, I reach a certain position, and the people would be like, "Okay, you're a male, and this is why you got that." And I think it's the same thing that feminists have been complaining about for a long time, about like people who would assume that the reason they got something is just because they are women and they attracted others sexually. So why would the same happen, for example, when you associate as again like group guilt or some evil just like to a certain group by weakening them in order to stop them from advancing in life? Don't you think this is unfair?
So the point is we all experience discrimination in our life, period. All of us, right? And we tend to have anecdotal evidence. I don't want to discredit, I'm going to go into your story a little bit later. So we all take these anecdotes of unfairness and we can remember them better than all the cases where we are privileged. All those instances where we were privileged. My dad was a doctor. So the whole city knew my dad is a doctor. So obviously they treated me differently than the migrant kids from people that are just workers. Okay, so, but when I grew up, I wouldn't see this because I wasn't aware. So I wouldn't see that I got all this privilege. So privilege is something we typically don't realize because when people are nice to us, we think people are just nice, right? We hope they are nice to other people too, but we wouldn't see the instances where they're not nice to other people. So it's very similar with pretty privilege. And there we're going to you. You're smart and you're pretty. And yes, you had to work hard, but if you were dumb and ugly, guess what? It would have even been harder.
It has nothing to do with that.
No, of course it has something to do with that.
Here's the thing.
You have your privilege, you're going in with
here's
privilege.
The thing. Students here in Germany, before they come to Germany, they need to have a blocked account. Yeah. Okay, they have to have, I think, 11,000 euros in their blocked account. Young people from third world countries, they're not all privileged enough to be able to afford such, and this is enough for what? For like just a year? You need that in order to get the visa, in order to come and study here, so that you prove that you have enough money. People who have like rich parents, they can do that. For me, when people see that I'm in Germany and I'm studying, they think, okay, they must have had rich parents who paid for that. But for me, no, like I didn't do that. I stayed up at night, searching, Googling scholarships until I found this one of Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, and then I got it. Okay, they didn't give it to me because I was pretty, and they didn't give it to me because I was a man. A lot of people don't really make these efforts. They don't search. They don't explore their potentials and opportunities. They're always
But you see how like maybe your parents also put some
so
foundation.
It's always about okay.
No,
Always go back to
the structure. It's about the structure. It's about the structure.
My
the
parents
structure,
didn't do any of that.
Look, but at the end, look, I don't want to discredit your own effort. Obviously, your effort in order to sit here, your effort was more than mine. I'm born in Germany, so my effort to sit somebody is already a lot less. Right? I already have my box, right? I'm born with a box I can stand up on, and then I can. And this is the interesting part. Studies show if you make it up, you're more likely to believe it's your own. You made it by yourself. The more you go up, actually, the more you think the poor people it's their own fault to be poor, because look at me, I could do it. And the less we understand that it also has to do with chances, with luck. And even if it wasn't, okay?
I understand that. Yeah, I agree. But that's part of being humble to some extent.
Even if it wasn't, like even if other people are like super lazy, they're super dumb, right? Like dumb is also not a choice.
I don't
like,
call people super lazy and dumb. Okay, I didn't say that.
Let's say even if, okay? Let's say even if. I still think they have enough human rights that they should be, because of human rights, because of a humanistic approach, they should get the boxes to look over. Because I think there are some things we should take care of each other. So I don't think you need to deserve something. I don't think you need to like earn that you have food. I think we should create a society where we can all have food.
But then in such system, where are we going to put hard work and intelligence? So all these terms will not be meaningful anymore.
When we are talking about Confucius, he says, and this is Spider-Man, right? With great power comes great responsibility. Okay. So Confucius and like there would be like the more responsible is on the talented. So this is another view, right? In like capitalist society, we have the idea that if you work hard and you're very talented, which you didn't do anything for, right? Talent is a lot of times also just something you got genetically and so on. So if you have all this, you deserve more money. But in Confucius, you would have, if you have all of this, you need to do more for society and others. And actually in Islam it's the same. If you're very good at something, you should be humble and help the poor, right? So actually when you would ask an Islamic scholar, they would say the same about the right side and say that it's very problematic because you should give zakat, right? You should give to the poor. You should try to enable others to come up.
But you don't give them as much as so that they can be at the same level with you. That's the thing. There is always an extreme in every policy.
We are at that extreme of consumption, right? Like in 622, they could not imagine how rich we are going to be today, right? They could not imagine that there's people with super yachts, that they have their private airplanes. This could not have been imagined. But when we go back, and Christianity and Islam are very close, right? When you read the books, they're very, very similar. So when you look at Christianity, and we'll go back to the camel idea, right? A rich person at that time didn't have that much at all in comparison to how an average person lives now. So when we talk about rich people, we should also talk about what are we talking? Are we talking about just millionaires or are we talking about billionaires? Because there's also a huge difference between somebody who just has 1 million, 2 million, or somebody who actually has a billion. Right? There's a difference. You can never earn €1 billion by your own work.
I think that's a very loose argument that you can like stretch it however you want. Like, okay, that was a time and a new time. But then the devil is in the details. How much the rich person is supposed to give?
How much did he take from society? In order to get rich, you're using roads, right? Let's say you have this Amazon drop shipping thing you're going to get rich with. You're using roads.
Some people are really working like 18 hours per day.
What about a nurse? Is a nurse not hardworking?
I'm not saying that.
So why?
I do support nurses.
So they're hardworking. So we live in a society where hardworking nurse, where we say the time is being paid, right? It shows if you pay less to somebody, it kind of means their lifetime is worth less. Their life is worth less, right? If you pay me 150 euro an hour, or you give the cleaning lady 10 euro. What is kind of indirectly sad is that my lifetime, because we're both spending 1 hour, is 15 times worth more than the cleaning lady. How can you think this is equal? And how can you pretend that we are doing this when for real we can look at statistics? Most billionaires, actually probably all, like there might be one or two, most billionaires have inherited money. They have used political structures for themselves and so on. Most millionaires already come from well-off families. The percentage of people that purely by labor made it that far. And I'm not talking about you. You're not a millionaire yet. We are going to talk again, have this podcast again. When you're a millionaire, maybe I will.
So your argument here is that the people who made it themselves are really, really rare.
But the media and so on wants to tell us that we can all have the chance. Because if we don't have it, if we don't have this in us, why would we participate, right? If we don't have the feeling we can all make it, this is how a lot of people will not believe in the middle, because many people are made believe they can make it. They can make it to become millionaires. But for real, the system is created in a way that the right side gets lots of media attention, and we have all the mainstream media like giving us headlines that are like this.
I think of it as simple as, for example, when I try to apply for a job application, and then it says at the end that if you're a female, or if you're a homosexual or trans or black person, I mean, then you are encouraged to apply.
You know that this is actually not, this is sad here, but statistics show you, like anyway, that this is not true. I have applied to so many jobs, later checking what their team is like. And I could have even sued because of discrimination, because it was clearly not that. People put it as a token, right? It said that because this is the law.
Okay.
So it's put there in Germany.
But do you agree with the law?
I agree with it. What's happening?
Why do you think this is such a good thing?
To catch up, to give people the chance to catch up. Why do I think the small guy gets to have the extra box? Because I want everybody to have a chance.
I can't be a black person. I can't be a woman. What am I supposed to do, for example, in order to get such a job?
You're already privileged. You're going to get the job more likely anyway.
No, you see, that's the point. Like you always keep mistaking what I mean. If every time I go to your class, I try to make sure, for example, to read the whatever you send us, and I try to be the first, try to have good grades because I'm ambitious and I want to have. And then at the end, when I try to get something, they tell me, okay, but you're not a woman or you're not homosexual. It's like, what am I supposed to do in such?
This is a thing where like, in actuality, I think those cases are like very few. As I said,
so your argument again is that these things are few, so we don't consider them.
Look, there's a point to be made about reparations, and there's a point to be made about like equality, right? So if we are at the point, at the end, I want the middle to come out, right? We agree
how is this reparation?
We both want the middle to come out. Because of historic structureness of like
reparation. I mean, for example, when you want more women, for instance, these women are not the same as the women in the past who were historically oppressed.
There are structures that mean that women might not be listened to so often,
then we
and
fix
so on.
Those structures. It means like we give them better education, make sure that they are qualified. But then it should be fair competition for everybody.
No, see, that's the thing. It's in order to create fair competition. Sometimes you might have to overcompensate. It's true. In order to like get best gains, maybe sometimes you do have to put more. Like have the hardcore vitamin drink, right? And you go over your vitamin, you have to you're charged, because this is how much the vitamin drink has. So yes, any policy and anything we try will have also negative consequences. The only thing we can say, inaction, okay, but then we are also complicit. Inaction doesn't have negative consequences, but we have a system where, of course, we have to try out how are we going to get to a point where it is fairness, where everybody has the same chances. So do I like quotas? Not necessarily. It really depends on where. For instance, in India, when the caste system was made illegal, we had that the Dalits, the untouchable, got scholarships, and the rich people had enough money to go send their children to universities.
Okay.
So the middle would be really screwed, right? So those people that are hardworking in the middle are really screwed. But we have to admit at some point that in theory, we want everything to be super fair and so on, but we live in reality.
That is not
so
fair.
Unfortunately, in order to go and aim at fairness, we have to try out different methods, and sometimes the method is bad and doesn't work, and sometimes it's unfair or it seems unfair, and sometimes it works. Do I say that quotas are always good? No. But sometimes quotas might be necessary because otherwise people will not get to this position.
Okay. I'm going to go to the next story.
Yes.
I want you to tell me if you know who this guy is.
I don't know, is it Tom? Everybody doesn't know how Tom looks. It's one of the inventors of Google who dropped out, no?
No. His name is James Damore, and he was a Google engineer, and he was fired in 2017 because of a memo that he wrote criticizing Google's diversity policy. In his memo, what he said was that he referred to like a famous study of Simon Baron-Cohen, who's a British psychologist, in which the study shows that women are more interested in people while men are more interested in things, like on average. And he used this study in order to say that that even though discrimination exists, but it is extreme to assume that every time we see differences in terms of genders, discrepancies in general, it's as a result of discrimination. So this is the memo that he had. And this is what gets us into the topic of cancel culture. Do you think that such a person should be canceled for such an opinion?
I have not read the whole one, so who am I to judge?
Okay, but if somebody says that,
so
okay.
Typically people are not cancelled though. Like most people actually, like Ricky Gervais, all the comedians, they're still there. There's big German comedians that all the time like, oh, cancel culture, but are there in stadiums. They fill stadiums. So so in this case, I guess he actually did lose his job. But most of the cases of cancel culture, people don't get cancelled. They actually get more media by producing clickbait and then even rank up, sell more tickets, and so on. So a lot of times this is actually used. You know, oh, I got cancelled, and then you have all the tickets. I'm later going to tell you something about this. But for now, I don't see cancel culture actually existing on the right. Like that right-wing people get cancelled a lot. I actually see left-wing people get cancelled even like way more. Like we had a senator in Berlin. She misdone her taxes by just 8,000 euro, and she had to resign. And it was just 8,000 euro, like she did some mistake on the taxes. Okay, reputable senator. Germany used to have, and I don't know, long time ago, like people on the left have to resign for. Sometimes I'm actually jealous when I look at right-wing scandal, people, like what scandals they come out. I'm like super jealous because I would have never dared to do anything even close to that. Because I know I would be I got shitstormed, I would be in Bild, you know, the German tabloid, and everybody would really take me apart. I would get so much hate and so on. So am I against cancel culture? I don't think that cancel culture exists. Do I think some people get cancelled unjustifiably? Yes. Do I think some people should get cancelled? Yes. Like, for instance, we have this Höcke, the boss of AfD, right? He's saying, like, really racist stuff all the time. I don't think he should be at the media at all. German media is putting, when you can look at, like, and we're now talking about Germany. We are in Germany, so I'm giving you lots of German examples. When we're looking at Anne Will, Maischberger, and Markus Lanz. For the last years, who is going to the talk shows? Who is invited? The right wing and the radical right wing, right? We're talking real racist. Court declared that can call Höcke a fascist. They are there in the studio all the time to make, in front of millions, to make arguments. Do you think how often are leftists invited? Almost never. Almost never they are invited to make a counterpoint. And this is very dangerous because this gave, you know, like being in a talk show or like at a podcast or something, it gives you clout, right? So if you are on the public TV every week, it's giving them clout. And this is how, and we both obviously are not on their side, this is how the German right wing really gained support also with young people and so on. They went to the talk shows, they created some clickbait, they used it at TikTok and so on, and this is how it's done. So I believe some people should be cancelled.
I think most young people here in Germany are leftists, though.
No, by now that 22% said they're going to they should maybe voting AFD.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
And this has to do with obviously them being on social media a lot, right? On TikTok, they have like a huge crowd on TikTok.
Actually, we'll get into that.
So cancel culture, yes or no? I don't think it actually exists.
And you think
To the extent, I think some people should be cancelled, but I also believe that there's some people that unjustifiable be pushed into a corner, are misunderstood, like that there's misunderstanding, and that they might have like they can learn still and like come back.
All right, so this is the first thing about this story, which is like being cancelled. But the second thing is the concept of the study that he spoke about. And he's not the only one who spoke about, actually. Here I'm going to show you a video. We're just going to watch it together, a very short one of Jordan Peterson, talking about this study. And let's see.
On average, men are more interested in things and women are more interested in people. And that's actually the biggest difference we know of psychologically between men and women. And even though men and women are quite similar, all things considered, the extremes make a difference. So you imagine that in order to become an engineer, look, obviously not everyone becomes an engineer, you have to have a particular temperamental proclivity to become an engineer. You have to be extraordinarily interested in things rather than people. Well, most of those people are men. And if you want to become a nurse, well, then you have to be much more interested in people than you are in things. And most of those people are women. And so you get differences in occupational choice that are also, by the way, quite great in Scandinavia, especially in the case of engineering and nursing, that are mostly due to biological differences. And you cannot minimize that by social engineering. So, and it's not a bad thing. Like, look, one of the things you...
So...
I haven't seen the setup of the study. Obviously, this is what I'm going to say because I'm the scientist. But when we look at which point does how we treat female and male babies differently come into place. Okay, just for the beginning, we can later say as if this is true for sure. Like, first, the way we act with little girls and little boys is different, right? This is different. Different.
That's the problem. He's saying it's biology.
Nature, nurture.
Yeah, it's not. It's all about nurture all the time.
So I'm not sure. Like, I haven't seen the study. I'm just clarifying that this is why I would want to see like what did they actually study and at what point of life. Okay, what ages we are talking. Are we talking an age where they are not aware of the stereotypes yet, or are we talking of a setting where we had like women and men, like all genders grown up the same, educated the same, and then they still choose it, right? Which could happen, and then we would be like, it's pretty much biology.
That's exactly what happened, by the way.
Okay. So obviously there's a thing to be thought that hormones do make a lot different, like how we react and so on, right? Testosterone plays a role and so on. So what does it say? Women are more interested in things and like in people, and men are more interested in things. I think at the end it's neutral, right? Like when we think about this is a neutral thing that doesn't make men better or women better, or like what do non-binaries do, right?
But the problem is that the left is trying so hard to deny biology. All the time they think that every difference we see is because of nurture because of the way we grow up. And even if you tell them, okay, so here is a country where they made sure, for example, that boys and girls are treated the same way since they were children, play with the same toys, wear the same, you know, all those aspects that are related with gender, but still at the end they go in different career paths, but they would still think there must be something about like the way we nurture them. It's like there is an obsession with denying the effect of biology on us, and it's always the same examples of like, okay, so we tell the boys that you play with guns and cars, and then we tell the girls to play with dolls. And the question that I had once in classroom is that, okay, but how did these things start in the first place? And then they didn't understand what the question is. I said, like, okay, how did humans decide this is what the girls will play with and this is what the boys...
It changes, right? It changes. This is very interesting because when we were... So archaeology for a long time, when they discovered graves, when there were weapons, they would write down that it's a male grave, right? That there's a man inside. So now we have DNA testing, we found a lot of times they assigned the gender incorrectly because they were finding weapons, and anytime archaeologists were finding weapons, they would be like, okay, this must be a man. So actually even our stereotypes now are changing about who were the hunters, who were the queens, who were the fighters, that there were actually way more women than we thought because of stereotypes.
But do we have any civilization that exists with women being warriors?
Yeah, of course. One? Like we're talking Amazons and so on, but we find lots of like even ancient in Germany. Even in Germany, we find graves where we've assigned those graves to men. Now we do DNA testing, and we find that some of those, not a lot, but like we find that a lot of, in comparison like to nothing, that we find like that there's actually more than we thought. More women that actually were fighting. We don't know they were fighting, right? We find them with weapons, and then we might find, but we might also find them with like wounds, right? With like battle scars and so on. Like in the bones, you can still find, right? If somebody gets killed violently, you can typically still see it on the bones. So we have lots of cases. So the question of like, when did we assign what, right? Pink and blue. This is historic that we even know that a couple hundred years, or like even 200 years ago, pink was a man color, and blue was a color for women. I mean, and I see the same when I look...
This is indeed a social product. Let's not talk about this. Okay. Let's talk about things that are associated, actually. Because when you say that women fought, we're not denying that. I mean, even in the Algerian Revolution against the French, there were a lot of women, actually, who fought. But still, there was like one woman next to like 10 men. So it's usually a very small number. And it's obvious to everybody when they look at the bodies of females and males. I mean, the testosterone hormones is responsible over aggression for men. I mean, it makes, like, for example, that their body muscles develop very quickly. And then you look at that, like, biology, like the woman's body is made to hold the baby and to nurture the baby, and grows inside her. And so does this not signify something that, for example, a man's biology is there to protect, and a woman's biology is to nurture?
Well, I'm not sure. You know, men are also capable of. You know, men are also capable of producing breast milk, right?
Doing what?
Breast milk. Like you can act as a man. Some men have when they hear babies and you really try hard. Some men can lactate because we have the same breast.
Men. We're not talking about some men.
When we're talking the man, we would both declare as biological male. Okay, we are not talking about transgender people. We are actually talking about men. So when we talk about biology, like protect and nurture, like come on, like nurture. I don't like this idea, because at the end. Protect and nurture, you will find the same. Like you find actually women speaking up in cases of injustice louder, although they are physiologically weaker. you will actually find women to speak up louder for weak people. But this might be a statistic, this might be nurture, and not the reason, not biological reason that we tend to side with the weakest.
Why do we use exceptions in order to make a general rule?
What are no, statistically, in case like who's going to help you on the street and so on, if you are in danger, actually a woman is more likely to help you than your man. And you could say this could be also coming from the nurture part, right? So I don't know. I am actually kind of like sick about talking about biology, like in general, not now, but in a general thing, because also like some people are tall, some people are small. There's so many differences in humans that play a bigger role than gender, right? This is very similar when we talk about sports. Sports are unfair anyway, right? It's unfair. Some people are just bigger than others. And I know very well, I play with men football, right? I'm the weaker one all the time, right? I have other qualities, hopefully, to still play with them, right? So nobody is like denying that there is biological difference. But the problem comes when we take something that is biological and make it about society and culture. Same with black. Saying that or like Asian, saying that Asians tend to look younger, right, is not racism. To connect this with a cultural thing, oh, that makes them smarter, that makes them better human, then that's racism. Stating a like biological fact, okay. Once we connect culture, social, or like dignity, human rights with this biological fact, then it becomes a problem.
That is not what we're doing here. I want to get to the next point, which is also related to this, but I want to go to this point through a picture that I will show you that was viral on social media, which is this one. So this is a photo taken by the photographer Anil Prabhakar, I think I'm pronouncing his name correctly, in Indonesia, where it shows an orangutan, is an ape, currently under threat of extinction, while stretching out his hand to help a geologist who fell into a mud pool. And the photographer uploaded the picture, and he wrote, "In a time when the concept of humanity dies, animals lead us to the principles of humanity." A lot of people shared this picture, and they were saying, you know, something similar to his, like it was the biggest lie to think that man is superior or humans are superior, stuff like that. Now, my question is, to how much extent does this happen in nature? If you go to the jungle, it's really characterized by wildness. Animals kill animals all the time. They eat each other's all the time. And so, why are we in a period where we look at things very romantically, and instead of looking at the facts, we just like choose these exceptional cases in order to make the rule? And it's the same thing earlier when you said like some men are like that, and some, it's always like that. It happened to me once in a leadership program, and I was talking to this feminist, and I told her about biology, how, for example, men are biologically stronger than women. And then she said, well, I can show you a lot of women who are stronger than you. It's like, it's not about me, and it's not about you. We are looking at the facts. And again, I'm against using these facts in order to oppress others, definitely. But, I mean, even, for example, for the hands fingers, we can say, like, we have 10 fingers, and then somebody say, okay, I know somebody who was born with 11 fingers. But that's an exception. It does not make the rule. And the left does that all the time. They use the exceptions to make the rule.
You are like the left, which is obviously, we know about leftists infighting, right? We know leftists are very good at infighting. So there is actually, unfortunately, there is no the left, right? There's like, left is like such a huge umbrella This is why we have so many left parties typically.
Like those social justice warriors.
Well,
woke.
we used to call them social justice warrior, yet now we are calling them woke. I have yet to meet somebody like that. Although I'm in my leftist bubble and run around, every time I hear a conservative talk about those people, I'm like, where are they? Shouldn't they be around me? Where am I meeting them? Very similar. Very similar with veganism. I don't really get to meet those vegans that are typically taken as the vegan stereotype. I don't meet them. And I'm an activist also. So, but when we are like, now I'm coming to your question. Obviously, this is kind of a romanticism about animals. Okay, but in this case, orangutans can be quite nice to humans. This is also why they're used for prostitution a lot in Malaysia, in Thailand, and so on.
They're used for prostitution?
Yeah, they're used for prostitution. There's brothels with them. So obviously it matters on which animals are we talking, how wild they are, right? So when we're talking about orangutans, we're talking about apes that are actually genetically kind of close to us, right? So we can see how they recognize another animal that is very similar to them. Sometimes we call us naked apes, right? We are very similar to them. So seeing like animals helping each other, that happens in nature. Obviously, when we are talking about what humanity does, the thing is, humanity can be both, right? We can be nicer than animals, but we can also be worse than animals, right? Because animals are mostly about instincts, right? They're mostly about instincts. Yeah. They're not, at least we think, they don't have the further developed consciousness. They don't really come with morality. Also, studies with chimpanzees show that they have senses of justice, right? When the experimenter gives them grapes and the other one cucumber for the same task, the one getting cucumber gets angry. So they do have a sense of justice in some cases in experiments and so on. But like this is a thing actually which I'm always pissed off. In German we say like we call the real estate people sharks, you know, like these real estate sharks. We should like do this to them. But a shark is an alpha predator that does not kill for fun. Most animals don't kill for fun. Humans do kill for fun, right? So this is why I say animals can be like out in the middle. We have worse humans and better humans. Yeah, so there's no evil. There's no evilness. So a shark, when they're hungry, they eat. But if they're not hungry, they leave you in peace. Same with a lion, unless they're afraid. But typically, a lion will not bother with you. If they're fat, they're not going to bother with you, right? So because they're acting out of instincts. And I don't know. Like we talked about hormones, so we are quite instinct.
Exactly.
We are more instinct.
Humans
than
are
we
also
want to.
acting out of their instincts, and this is why I told you. I think in another conversation outside this studio where we spoke about religion, I said outside of religion there is only instinct.
Well, they can
because
also
you need to believe in something that's beyond yourself.
Philosophy, but when we are thinking about the shark, right? A shark would never accumulate stuff and then nobody else gets anything. Right? A shark eats as much as they need, typically. And dolphins kill for fun, okay? Like, there's some animals that do kill for fun. Okay. But most animals do not. Most animals kill for food, so out of necessity. Right?
So here we're not using the exceptions, right?
Huh?
The exception now is not making the rule.
Yeah, but I'm not doing that anyway, and I think you are doing injustice to some people that you saw as something extreme and making those exceptions of whoever you meet from like a queer bubble or something and make them the representatives of the left.
I think I'm very open-minded to talk to people, but most of the time this is what I get. I don't think there are exceptions at all. I just think that probably you did not, maybe you are not attentive to what they say or what their opinions are because you think that they are, you know, in the same line with you, so you agree, and so you don't have to debate them. But once you start questioning people's opinions, especially those on the left, then you will get the same things. They all, I wouldn't say all, but like most of them, they think the same way. They take the exceptions and make it the rule.
You know, I was actually against quotas before I came back. Like, I only changed it when in my 30s that I'm for quotas. Only when experiencing being discriminated just based on my gender, I was like, wait, maybe this is not such a bad idea. I feel like I'm not being taken seriously by men at all here. So this was just like, and this is also a different bubble, right? When I used to be at university, if you say 3 sentences, typically the old professor understands you're smart or not, and this is how they treat you. We can find this good or bad, but I never felt discriminated based on gender. Only when I joined politics, I could see how it doesn't matter, the content didn't matter, right? How my expertise didn't matter. It would be different if there was a man speaking or a woman speaking. And now you can say this is bullshit, Didem. You probably I was talking bullshit. That's why nobody listened, right? So this is why I actually changed my mind on this. And I also didn't used to use gender in German, the one with a star and the ending. I never did it. I only recently, in the last 5 years ago, I changed doing it. Because I got convinced that this is a better thing to do, right? By arguments. And not, so I think I do meet those people and I'm listening to them, extreme like those, and I actually find it more interesting to open myself up to the possibility that I am discriminating people, right? That there is a kind of practice that I can be more compassionate than before.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question. Suppose you're in a lake and then you see your dog dying, and then next to your dog on the other side there is a stranger, a human, and you can only save one. Who would you save?
Well, obviously I have to save the humans, right? Otherwise I get cancelled.
No, I mean, seriously, what do you really think?
The thing is, in this situation, I probably would be crying, but save the human.
Okay.
So my moral drive is stronger, but I'm probably going to be quite emotional about having to let my dog drown. Yeah. Come on, cry at the same time. That's kind of justified.
It does hurt, but I'm here showing you what we were talking about, the trend earlier. It's a short video made by Prager University.
But you know they're really problematic and they cut out the other answers, right? They're really filtering it to have the negative stereotypes.
Okay, you don't need to take this as an ultimate truth, okay?
I'm just saying, like, be careful with your sources.
Of this young generation.
So imagine your dog was drowning, and then there was also a stranger. He was drowning, and you never met him before.
Right.
And you could only save one.
I would save the dog.
You'd save the dog?
Yes, I would save the dog.
That was quick. Very quick. Who do you save?
I'm gonna choose my dog.
I would scream for help and dive in, and someone else is gonna dive in with me because I'm gonna scream for help.
If it was just you.
Just me? I don't think that I would ever be in a position like that. More like if I were to ask you, if we live in a first country where veganism is everywhere, veganism is spreading everywhere, then why would we still contribute to violence? Yeah.
In that completely hypothetical situation, of course it would be the human being. Yeah, of course.
That's fair. Most people don't say that.
If it did ever come down to it, like choosing between a human life and an animal life, I'd have to go with the human one. And for me, it's because I know that human can save more animals.
See, they did not cut out the last answer.
But they did it on purpose. Like, I mean, they went to a vegan festival. Okay. So as a vegan myself, I know how hard it is to love humanity sometimes, because humans tend to be very cruel to vegans, right? You get picked on all the time, you get made fun of, you have to see cruelty all the time, so on. So it's already unfair to not look at the general population, but to ask vegans about this, right? Because they're like more sensitive about this issue. And I'm not even sure the first one, is she really going to do it, or was it just a saying? And also, we have seen this just recently. There was this gonna be vice president candidate, Christine Noem or something like that, right? She published a book. The book is not even published, but we know she shot a dog, right? And everybody hates her. Even the radical right wing distance themselves from the idea of shooting the dog.
That's bad,
So
definitely,
so this you can like say you as a North African can actually complain about Western and Europeans, and this is done all the time, that we love our animals more than we love humans. And when we look at the statistics, how many people die in the Mediterranean Sea, right? There is a reason why you could expect that actually most Europeans like animals more than humans. So maybe not many people will be as stupid as to admit that they might like feel closer to the animals, but this is a typical stereotype against Europeans, against Germans, that we love our cats and dogs more than we love humans. And I don't think it's 100% wrong, because if we see like if we look at that people are starving all over the world, right? Even me giving food to my cat instead of giving money to charity, it's distance, right? It's more distance. But even that could be considered me saving the cat and not that other human.
Actually, I see
If you
some sort
take it
of a
like-
disconnection, like here living in Germany. I'm not sure how, because I didn't live in other Western countries. I just visited, but I didn't really live as much as I lived here. But I can see this phenomenon, like it's a good relationship where you're friendly with animals, and then you love your pet. But do you love them to the extent that you would save them over another human life? And is this associated with this also lack of social life here, where people are not communicating much with the other humans, so they don't really care about each other? Or do they only see the evil in each other? I look at another human and I see a potential of an engineer, a scientist that could do a lot of great things, in the same way as that they can also do bad things. But still, you could choose whether you look at the bad or at the good in people. So why do they do that?
I think, like, okay, this was very interesting in multiple parts. So here we had vegans, right? So they probably see lots of evil and lots of people being evil and being not compassionate at all towards them. So that's already a select group. But when we're now talking Germany, so you see the potential engineer, right? So you see somebody you might help and then they can help themselves. I just see a human being in need. I don't care what their potential is, right? I think they have a right to get help, to get support. So I'm suffering with them, and because of my empathy, I want them to have stuff. I don't do it because of, and this is instrumental. They could be an engineer, they could be a medic, they could be a doctor, or anything.
But the reason I said that is because some people's opinion is that dogs don't kill other humans, they don't do bad stuff, but humans do. So this is why they wouldn't save the human. But why do you only look at the bad things? The humans can also do good things.
That's an argument about potentiality, right? Actually, today we had a similar thing. We were talking about would you kill baby Hitler in class? And there was one student who said, I can't kill any babies. And we were like, but we're talking Hitler, right? And it took like a long time until he was like, okay, I'm killing baby Hitler also, even though he's a baby. But yeah, I mean, part of it, I'm quite sure, and I agree with you, like I don't have this Germanness in me either, where I don't talk to people. I talk to people all the time, right, on the streets and so on. I talk to homeless people, I talk to my hairdresser and so on. So I chat all the time with people because I don't feel like I'm superior than everybody and than anybody.
But do you
and
think
also,
that people who don't talk to other people feel they're superior?
a lot of times I think it's like also they don't know how to communicate. I feel like this is part of it. This is part of it. Like I've been told that communication is actually my superpower, because then I tend to get like extra stuff all the time, because if you're nice to people and you start chatting about them, you know a little bit of their life, they do an extra step for you too, right? Well, when at the kiosk, right, at a small store, I want to get my post package, they know me, you know, they might keep it a day longer, even though I haven't picked it up and I would have to send it back. And this is something that probably to an audience not in the West sounds very normal, right? Sounds very normal. Like I go to the restaurant and I go up with my plate. I don't have to put it in plastic and so on. This is from my neighbors. I take the plate and I bring the plate back. And I would think for like the part of the audience that comes from North Africa, They're like, this is normal. Didem, why are you pointing out? This is what we do, right? Then the restaurant owner knows us, they have seen us, they know we're going to bring this, right? But we are in a more individualistic society, right? The problem is individualism. It's not so much focused on community, and it's focused a little bit on the idea that other people's problems are not our business. Right? And this is dangerous for society, but this also means, like, sometimes I'm asking people, like, should I have said something? And then they're like, no, I wouldn't, because this is none of my business. And I'm like, but I know something to help. Should I say it? Okay. And then they're like, no, you're encroaching on their personal space. Right. Then I'm like, again, like, but if I know it really helps them, right? I in myself, I feel like this, like, like, what am I going to do, right? The question of, like, what should we act? So I think in German society and also in the US and so on, and the US is a little bit different culture. They're, like, more open with each other, at least, like, you know. So I do feel that there's a crisis of loneliness, right? That people, and especially younger people from the pandemic, that they never learned how to interact with other humans, right? And that that everybody has a feeling they're encroaching up on somebody else's space. And this is a problem because in our world, public spaces are shrinking, right? More and more spaces, you have to pay something to be there. And then once you have to pay to be somewhere, you're seeing yourself as a customer. If you're in a public park where everybody is free, in a sense, you see yourself rather as a community. So this has a lot to do with, like, shrinking public spaces, and it's at the same time individualism and so on. So at the end of the day, people don't communicate enough anymore. They don't have any friends, okay? Like, when I tell people that I probably have more than 50 very good friends, they're like, phew.
That's impressive, because it's very hard to do that here.
They're like, phew, right? And it depends on, like, I think also there's, like, probably a Hollywood stereotype of what a friend should be. And I have different expectations. I think a friend is somebody you can call in the case of emergency. No, and you don't need to call for 2 years, but if you call them in emergency, they're immediately there. That's, for me, friendship. It's not counted how often you see a person, how strong is your, like, same beliefs. It's purely about, you can call them in case of emergency. I think this is how you can, like, understand if somebody is a friend or not. So I think
that's a common belief, though. I think most people think that.
No,
they say
like
friend in need is friend indeed.
Yes, it's even a song. But a lot of times they like this, I think, idealistic expectations of you go everywhere, you do lots of stuff with each other and so on, right? I think those are present, and at the same time, people don't know how to start a conversation, how to just, like, jump into something, and so I think this is really a problem here. And a dog is going to love you back anyway. You don't have to, right? The dog is going to love you anyway. A cat is a little bit stronger.
This is why people are like they tend more to have pets, because they suffer from loneliness and they don't know how to communicate with other people.
I mean, I have 2 cats at home, right, and I don't really suffer from loneliness.
But does it contribute ever? Because when I look at the life, for example, here in Germany, and I see every time I go in the evening, I see everyone is just alone with their dog, just walking, and maybe every single day.
But the dogs actually make other dog people talk to each other, so it's like a connector. They are bonding over dog talk, seriously. So it's an entry to, like, get to talk. So does it? I don't know. Do I think more people will, like, actually get friends when they don't have dogs? I don't think. I feel like actually there's going to be more depressed people. I do think we would have to, like, relearn how to communicate and get rid of some of the individualism, right? Be more of a community. And traditionally you had this in churches, right? But less people go to church. You knew people from church. You had, like, all these community structures where you actually meet people and take care of each other.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, I'm gonna jump to the next picture. It's a picture of somebody that probably you will like.
Oh yeah, big fan.
So what is wrong with this person?
I think he had a real sex trafficking, so I'm there, like, so the question would be, what is right with this person? And I would probably think Andrew is not a miserable name, it's okay. So I would have trouble, like the list is very long, right? Even if you think yourself a protector, right? You would have to get angry at this person. Like, even from like your conservative perspective, right? There's everything wrong with this person.
I'm a fan of this person.
Yeah, I know. So from grooming, right, to violence, to psychological torture to people, and like to taking money off, to convincing young lost boys, men, that this is a good option, that this is wonderful, that you can become rich like this. Being a role model, I think this guy, doesn't he for you also describe everything that is wrong in society?
But the phenomenon of Andrew Tate on social media is very interesting, where a lot of young boys have started like following him. Why do you think that is? And they say like he makes a lot of good points and invites men to be competitive, to be confident, and to strive for success and success and stuff like that.
Does he look like a confident man to you?
I mean, forget about what I think about him, but I'm just trying to analyze his effect on society right now. It's something that you cannot deny, which makes me think that there is an absence of role models for young men when it comes to, striving for success or confidence and stuff like that. And don't you think that this has to do with how feminism affected society?
No, I think this has to do with the left being not interested in social media. I think like this is one of our biggest weaknesses.
In social media?
Look, when 3 years ago, when the AfD was starting to have all these TikTok clips, on the board I was like, we need to have a TikTok clip. The AfD is going to get all young people, right? And now some women are also, and we can see the statistics, right? It's typically men that drive to the right wing, that go to the radical right side, right? And women are actually becoming more progressive. So there's actually like a divide, right? And first there's like social media. There's way more right wing on social media. Why? Because, and I feel it myself, because self-promotion feels shabby to a leftist, right? Like all this, like I can go live on TikTok for 2 or 3 years. Do you know how often I've done it? Maybe 5 times. So I'm actually responsible too. I always tell myself, maybe I should try to do like more social media, because I know that the right wing is everywhere, right? And we're not talking you, we're talking those kind of characters. Okay, we're not talking like moderate right wing. We are talking this extreme. I guess he's libertarian. I'm not sure. I don't know his politics. I think he's libertarian though. So some form of right wing, not racist, but like this capitalist right wing area.
I mean, I do disagree with him, especially when he makes the life or the potential of young men in general is all about like just purchasing cars and a big villa and a house
and
like that.
Making as many babies as possible, not taking care of them or something like that also, right? Reproduction.
For me, it speaks more to greed about like than just being on top or being strong, because strength can take different forms. And I think he, let's say...
I think he's weak. I think like he overcompensates. I think his whole body language speaks lost little boy.
Okay.
But obviously I'm not a psychologist, right? But to me, he doesn't appear like a strong man at all. Just like, for me, the sad thing is, while for me he's a joke figure, he's a joke. He's a joke of a man.
But some people,
to me,
really benefit from his videos, though. Some people really got motivation from his videos.
Yeah, that's the sad thing.
So
At the same time,
positive?
Well, I don't think this can be ever. He has so many shitty values that I don't think anybody
Did you see
can.
any of his videos, though?
Yeah.
How many videos did you see?
Not many.
Okay.
Like
so
obviously, it's gonna give me brain bleed. I cannot judge him. I can judge him by his action.
For me, I think his videos showed up on my feed on social media so many times, and I can kind of understand why he attracted
He's appealing.
he's appealing certain people, especially the image of success, and I have many cars, and you have to be confident and stop bullshit. And sometimes he does motivate people or give like some good advice, like stop wasting your time and stuff. But for me, this is a very general advice that anybody can give.
You know, in Germany, we always say Hitler was building the Autobahn.
Okay, I didn't know
This is what, well, it's not really, it's not, it's one of those things, you know, like even the evilest person you know will have sometimes say something truth. There's something similar like a broken clock is right twice a day.
Okay.
Right? So yeah, maybe some like commonplaces, he has said something that is not miserably and horribly like problematic. But you're right there, and this is really concerning, right? That there is lots of young men that do find something inspiring in him. And I would say, I would agree.
You know that there are certain young women who actually like him.
I would agree. Well, yeah. I mean, there's Stockholm syndrome also. I would agree that there's a lack of positive role models on all sides, like positive role models that are healthy. Okay, let's not left, right, top, bottom. Just healthy role models. That has a limited guidelines, right? Lots of those children have parents that have 2 or 3 jobs, so the parents don't have time to like see what the children are watching or to give them love, right? It's lack of love also, lack of confidence that comes from you within, lack of values. Because somebody who has like great values can watch this and be like, oh, this is bullshit. But we have lots of children that are just left alone with their devices, right? They have to basically raise themselves. So social media is raising them.
Okay.
I mean, we see that with like all those shootings, right? We have this incel shootings where they're like, I could never have women, so I'm shooting all the women I can, and so on. So this is like, a lot of times, I think, lack of love. Love by the parents, no community, and we are back to community, right? No community that feels responsible for you. When you, in Algeria, wherever in the village you were, when you were running on the streets and doing bullshit, the whole neighborhood will be like, you're doing bullshit, come here. Or when you're hungry, and this is very funny, in Germany, there was this trend where people with like migrant parents were making fun about Germans not inviting the children to food. So you would be, and I fortunately have never experienced this. So when you have like a family and you have children over, the child from somebody else is there, and you have dinner. You would tell the other child to stay in the room, and just call your own child for dinner. Okay? For me, this is purely lack of community. Right? If there's a second child, I'm feeding that second child.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, I'm not sending it home. And there was like this on TikTok, on Twitter, there was this trend where people were telling stories about how in their childhood they were sent somewhere else and were not allowed to eat with them. But overall, yeah, I would say this is like really like a whole generation, and I don't think it's about like too many queer people. It's about not enough love and not enough love guide, like what are really good values for those kids.
Okay, so this is why they turned away and they are seeking help for characters like that on social media.
Yeah, like a strong person to guide you, you know? Like if you are looking for a lighthouse, you're not taking the weak light, you're taking the strong light to guide you.
Yeah, so there's a lack of light in families. I would let somebody else who's a big fan of him to respond to that maybe in the comments afterwards. But let's watch this video of what he said, especially since you're a climate activist. I would like to know your feedback about what he said in this video. So let's see your reaction.
If I get in my Ferrari, you can't turn it off. You gotta chase me down, sir. Good luck, police. You gotta catch me. But if you're an electric car, they just say, what's his serial number? Boop. Turn off the car. Keep the doors locked. That's why they want you to have an electric car, so they can turn your car off. Nothing to do with the environment. That's bullshit.
I want to start with like the point of like his disregard for any kind of rules. Right? Like the stereotype on the left would be, I don't like the police, but I love traffic police. because
I violate the rules and just like, but that was just like for the sake of an example.
Obviously this was for the sake of the example, but I would already be like, okay, this shows that he doesn't care about anybody but himself. And now I'm getting to the environment. He also doesn't care about anybody, about the environment, because he doesn't care about anybody but themselves, right? He's only about him. So anything that doesn't concern him, in order to have care for the environment, you have to care about other human beings, or have respect for nature, care about animals. But he truly shows here that he's kind of nihilistic, right? He only cares about his ego. When we come to electric cars, private cars are not a solution. We can't all have an electric car. So electric car is the same thing. We are talking privatized public space, right? When we look at Berlin, you know, a car on average is parked there 23 hours, a private car. 23 hours, but this is public space. And they're big enough so children are not seen. So, you know, 30 years ago in Berlin, children could play on the sides of the streets.
But we still have a lot of spaces.
Not comparatively to how many people we have. And you can't just send your kids downstairs to play, right? Anymore. You used to be able to just send kids downstairs to play. But now the cars are so big, you can't even see. And no, I have friends that are at the occupation against Tesla. So electric cars are not really like a serious solution. A serious solution has to be to consume less, right? We have to consume less resources. We can't just do the same thing a little bit less, because when we look at carbon emissions, at the moment we probably are on a 3-degree course. And Schellnhuber, the famous German professor in climate science, said the difference between 2 and 4 degrees is civilization. So if we are currently on a 3-degree course, right? It's really screwed. We're gonna be hungry and so on. So I'm actually bored by talking about electric cars because it's too late. The production of an electric car is a multiplied budget, yearly budget. One person, a fair budget, okay? We take everybody in the world. And we look at our carbon budget a year, okay? What Earth can renew in 1 year? And we look at how are we going to stay below 2 degrees, okay? 1.5 degrees is dead anyway. 2 degrees is probably also dead, the aim. Then we are only allowed to use 1.5 tons a year, probably like this, okay? Everybody has a budget of 1.5 tons. Producing a new car can be already 30 tons. Okay, that should be 20 years of my life, the budget. So we are very dishonest. When it comes to climate change politics, I have not seen a single politician that is honest about the numbers. Even also not on the left and not on the right, nowhere. Because nobody wants to realize where we are. So he can shit on electric car all he wants.
So here you're against the solution of electrical car because you don't believe in that as a solution in the first place. But what about this idea of like a conspiracy theory that the reason they want you to have electric cars is that so that they can stop it from somewhere and lock it up?
We can also do that with the other cars, right? There's computers in most cars by now. It's not just electric cars. Like years ago, I have an uncle, he has this huge Porsche Cayenne, you know, one of those like evil ones, Cayenne, one of those horrible ones. And this is already telling you when to go to somewhere and so on. And it can already self-lock. And we had this journalist, I think Hastings or something, years ago, Guardian journalist, where people think he might have been killed by his own car because it was speeding up into a tree. It was like a WikiLeaks thing and so on. We still don't know.
Some Audi cars that can be locked by the company, especially if they are suspected to be stolen from somewhere. If the first.
So it's not just happen. So we can have the same conspiracy about anything that is kind of with a computer, right? Like people want to lock us out of buildings, anything. So this conspiracy would work for any kinds of devices. So it's amusing, no?
It is amusing.
Like, I mean that also it's like he feels somehow like he feels like God also, because the belief talking about this Ferrari and the police. If the police really wants, they just send a helicopter. Booyah, you have a Ferrari, you know? like, I mean, he's like really feeling like a little God.
Even though this video gained millions of views, though, and also I think 1 million or 2 million of likes, and people, okay, yeah, it makes sense. So I think this is the last thing that I wanted to ask you and I wanted to talk to you about. So we came to the end of this episode, but before we wrap this up, I want to give you the floor if you want to say anything to be remembered.
Oh, anything to be remembered?
Yeah, sure.
That's, I don't know. Like, I mean, I don't find anything that interesting. Just try to be a nice person and try to be as open. Maybe try to be as open as this person on the opposite side of me, but don't end up with the same beliefs.
Okay. I will take your advice to consideration.
I feel like your beliefs can still be evolving, though, right? Yeah. So I would so probably more people than are conservatives listening to you. So I would advise actually to use you as an example for what a conservative can be and how you can still be like in interaction.
I think it's progressive for your views to be always evolving, even for the leftists themselves. So when I show you, for example, contradictions of the left, I hope that you will think about them, and maybe you will, next time you come to the episode, you're gonna have like new views.
And let's not forget, we are talking to humans and we are talking in groups. Humans, there's no natural groups, right? It always depends. The left doesn't exist, the right doesn't exist. I'm against total individualism, but on the other hand, we have to take into account to see the other openly and not to put like our ideas, what they're going to believe, onto them, but actually be open what they're going to say.
All right. Okay, thank you so much, Didem, for being in this episode, and thanks.